I'm Brad DeRoche. Welcome back. This is my series on sight reading, and this is lesson number 12. Hopefully you're starting to get pretty good with finding the notes on the guitar, and not only thinking in terms of letter names, but now also in terms of music notation, so that you can look at a note, say for instance an A, and you can think not only what the letter name is, but you can also think where that note is on the staff. And in this case, it would be on the first ledger line above the staff. Okay, so today's lesson, we're going to focus on the high register of notes. And so you will need to add these three notes to the deck. So we're going to start with this high D, followed by high E and high F. Now, when you're looking at the master sheet, that's going to be here in the high register on the first string, D, E, and F. All right, so we just added those notes, but then you're going to, in your deck, you're going to take all the notes from this D right here, which had been our fourth string open originally. We're going to take the notes from there on up and just use this series of notes. So we're going to exclude all of the low register notes that are from middle C, written middle C, all the way down to our low E. We're going to take those out of the deck for this. So we're just going to focus on the high register, and we're going to use our same protocol as before. We're going to put them in groups of three. So we could start with this, for instance, this group of three notes on the first string, which are D, E, and F. I'm just going to shuffle. Yeah, it's only three notes, so it sort of doesn't matter how much you shuffle it. And I ended up with, exactly backward, F, E, D. So anyway, I'm just going to play that then. So I'm just laying those cards out on the music stand in front of me, and then I would play that. But I'm going to look at the notes and really think of the notation here, because the goal, again, is to try to memorize the notation, where the note is placed, the note head is placed on the staff, and what the letter name is and where it is on the guitar. So we're adding this piece of information, and it compounds things and makes it much more difficult than just thinking of letter names alone. All right, so when you do this, don't just put the three notes down and go, yeah, I know it's F, E, D, and then just play F, E, D without looking at the note cards. You're trying to look at the notation. That's the big part of it here. So I'm going to look at the first one. It's an F. It's above the third ledger line. The next note is E, which is on the third ledger line. And the next note is D, which is above the second ledger line. So I'll show those to you here. So this was my randomly selected order. It went F, then E, and then D. So I played those notes all in a row. Okay, so you could shuffle those, do those a couple of times. The next time it would have come out E, F, D, etc. Again, the goal is to look at the note head and associate it with the spot on the guitar. So you do that one string at a time. So that's the first step. Just do the three note groupings on one string. So maybe you start with the sixth string, go up to the fifth, fourth, third, etc. And then you can shuffle all those up and do a random selection of any of the notes in the high register and go through and do it that way. And the next thing you could do, like we did in the previous lesson, is to take any three notes from that register and stick them side by side. Just shuffle the deck, play three notes in a row, and try to find those in that register, etc. And then lastly, the fourth thing we could do is to try to find those same notes in lower registers. But that kind of gets into the next lesson too. So I'll just kind of stop it there. So for today, we have primarily three ways of looking at this when we're learning a new register. And you'll notice it was essentially the same thing we did when we were learning the note names the first go around. So we're doing single string groupings of three notes. We do that first. And then we can do randomly selected single notes within the register, just picking any note out of the deck and finding it in that register. And then the last thing we did was to find little groupings of disconnected notes that are within a register and play those. And that helps to just doing the group of two or three or four notes really helps to shake things up in our mind, so we're not always thinking of the notes just being connected on one string. All right, so you can see the level of difficulty increases with each of these steps. Anyway, try that out and do that for a day or two or three until you feel comfortable with the high register notes. For most guitarists, we don't really get to these notes in a very systematic way when we're learning through traditional methods, such as the old methods of Aguado or the Pujol method or Sagreras or some of the others that were used traditionally. So I feel like what I'm teaching you here is taking sort of a new step in a new direction, although it's no doubt been done by countless guitarists in the past, but it doesn't really exist in any method book, and that's the problem, is that many students don't get good information taking them stepwise up the fingerboard. So that's our goal, is to learn these registers one at a time, and once we get comfortable with them, we'll start putting those notes into music, into melodies and harmonies later. Okay, so that's it for today. So go out and learn the notes in the high register until you're really comfortable with those, and when you are, come back and see me for the next lesson. Take care. Cheers.